Good evening and welcome to tonight's Homewood City Council meeting, January 27th, 2020. We are going to begin tonight first with a proclamation. Mr. Mayor, proclamation for National Gun Violence Survivors Week. And Mr. Mayor, I will turn it over to you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a couple of ladies here this evening to accept the proclamation, so we're going to ask them to come forward and introduce themselves, and then to thank Mr. Higginbotham for preparing this for us or getting us the information for it. So we'll be glad to do that here in just a moment. Ladies?
Hey, do y'all mind signing in too before you leave after you say your name?
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, my name is Karen McClure. I'm a resident of Homewood, and I am the local group lead for the Birmingham Group of Moms Demand Action here in Birmingham, and we are a gun violence prevention organization.
Hi, I'm Insulin Crow. I'm Homewood. I'm also a West Homewood mom, and we are just really thankful that Homewood has agreed as part of a national program of cities across the country to recognize the survivors of Gun Violence Week starting next week. We're working on all the other municipalities, including Birmingham. So thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you, Mike, for getting that on the agenda today.
Absolutely. And what more appropriate time than the tragedy that happened yesterday over at Church of the Highlands. So I think timing's very appropriate. So, ladies, they always allow us to turn our backs for just a brief moment to them and face the audience. Okay. So we'll get y'all to come right around here.
Okay.
Oh, we're going to stand because I don't want to be the one right out in the front. I'll let you do that.
Well, why don't we do? Well, hold on a minute now, y'all. She's ready to take a picture. Let's do that, and then I'll read it. How about that? I'm flexible.
Okay, thank you.
We good? Okay. Make sure. All right, all right, ladies, so we'll read this. Whereas every year over 36,000 Americans are killed in acts of gun violence, and 73,000 more are shot and wounded. Whereas by early February, more Americans are killed with guns than are killed in our peer countries in an entire calendar year. Whereas a gun violence survivor is anyone who has personally experienced gun violence, whether you've witnessed an act of gun violence, been threatened or wounded with a gun, or had someone you know and cared for wounded or killed. Whereas forms of gun violence can include, but are not limited to, gun suicides, gun homicides, domestic violence involving a gun, shootings by law enforcement, and unintentional shootings. Whereas 58% of American adults or someone they care for has experienced gun violence in their lifetime, demonstrating the reach and impact gun violence has in communities across America. Whereas firearms are the second leading cause of death for children and teens, and the first leading cause of death for black children and teens in America. Whereas Americans in cities across the nation are working to end the senseless violence by advocating for common sense gun safety legislation. Whereas by commemorating National Gun Violence Survivor Week on February 1st to February 8th, cities across America will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives stolen by gun violence. And whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to help keep our communities safe. So now, therefore, I, Scott McBrayer, Mayor of the City of Homewood, hereby proclaim the week of February 1st to February 8th, 2020 as National Gun Violence Survivors Week, and encourage all citizens to support their community's efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value human lives. Ladies, thank y'all for all you do.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we'll begin tonight with call to order and Actually, we can begin with our invocation and pledge, and everybody rise. Have Councilor Barry Smith going to do the invocation for us today. Thank you.
Thanks. Y'all pray with me? Dear God, thank you for bringing us to this place to do the important work of our city. As we continue to mourn the loss of our beloved Fire Chief John Bresnan, I pray for your grace and your protection over all of our firefighters as they continue to do their work while they grieve their loss. Especially I pray for Interim Chief Nick Hill as he leads the men and women of the Homewood Fire Department as he grieves the loss of his dear friend. Help us to be discerning and thoughtful in our discussions and our decisions tonight, and let us listen with open ears and open hearts. And as we go about our work, help us to remember God's word from Philippians 2:3. Do nothing from rivalry or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. In your name I pray. Amen.
Face the flag.
Oh, there's no flag. Oh, okay.
All right, we're going to put a pledge to their imaginary flag, and maybe face the Alabama flag if you wish, but face the Alabama flag. It's going to be,
Okay.
all right. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Where's our flag?
All right, who stole the flag?
That's super weird.
I guess I should put that on my to-do list for tomorrow. Find the flag.
Okay, we will get that addressed. All right, thank you. So we'll begin with roll call. Melody?
Yes, sir. Mr. Gwaltney? Here. Mr. Thames? Here. Mr. Higginbotham? Here. Mr. Wolverton? Here. Mr. McCluskey? Here. Mr. Jones? Here. Mrs. Smith? Here. Mr. Wyatt? Here. Mrs. Andrus? Here. Mr. Harden? Here. President Wright?
Here.
Everybody's here?
Thank you. And first, I'll entertain a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes from January 13, 2020.
So, second.
By Mr. Gwaltney, a second by Ms. Andrus. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so those minutes are going to be approved. All right, I believe we have one board vacancy, Ward 3 Park Board. Ms. Smith, or, no, I'm sorry, Ward 3.
It's Ward 4. Oh, we have Ward 4, too.
Wh-
Ward 4 Park Board.
Is it Ward, I'm sorry, is it Ward 4? You guys, okay.
I'm sorry, we have a
Yes.
mistake. It's not Ward 3.
Yes, it's Ward
We
4.
It's a typo. It's Ward 4.
It's Ward
Okay.
4.
All right, Ward 4, Mrs. Smith.
Yes, we have Tyler Vale, who was previously serving as our Ward 4 Park Board representative, and he would like to continue to serve. And I don't believe we received any other resumes besides his, so I would move to reappoint Mr. Vale.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to reappoint Tyler Vale as the Ward 4 Park Board member. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so he gets to serve for another 4-year term? Is it anybody know how long those terms are? Is it 4-year term, so congratulations to him. All right, we do have several additions to the agenda tonight. First, I need to change item number 200120 to be referred to Public Works instead of it being referred to Public Safety, which I think occurred at the last meeting. So 200120 is going to go to Public Works. Item number 240120, which is a request to authorize the mayor to sign a renewal contract with Stryker for cardiac monitors, coming to us from Lori Stoney, Battalion Chief and EMS Director. We're going to assign that one to our Finance Committee. Item number 250120, request to sponsor July 4th Thunder on the Mountain fireworks from the Vulcan Park Foundation, coming to us from J.J. Bischoff. That's going to be assigned to Finance Committee. Item number 260120, request for consideration to vacate a portion of Park Ridge Drive near 29th Terrace to Monsignor Muller, Our Lady of Sorrows Catholic Church, coming to us from Greg Cobb and the BEZ. That one's going to go to Public Works as well. And then item number 270120, request to work in the city right-of-way at 509 Devon Drive, coming from Greg Cobb and the BEZ and Kevin Harrod. With this, we're going to assign that one to Special Issues Committee. All right, so those are the items to be added to tonight's agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended by Mr. Harden. A motion for approval. Second by Mr. McCluskey. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so our agenda is approved for tonight. We'll turn to consent agenda items first, and I'll entertain a motion for approval of the consent agenda items by Mr. Hickenbotham,
Second.
second by Mr. Thames. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so the consent agenda items are approved. Old business agenda, 10/11/19, a public hearing that was held on December 9th, 2019, for consideration of condemning a house at 1649 28th Avenue South. Is Wyatt Pugh still here? Oh, okay, great. Mr. Pugh, we had a public hearing that was held and closed on December 9th, but we did carry that over. I guess you're going to give us an updated report on that, sir.
Nothing's changed since the last meeting. It's still temporarily abated. The nuisance condition's still temporarily abated. The closing is still set, last I heard, for, I believe I said March 1st. So, once that's done, the plan is to demolish the house. Mr. Tangy, the contractor.
All right, so it'll be March. I assume everyone, without objection, will just keep it on, since we do have a temporary abatement. Okay, Ms. Smith.
I don't want to be the fly in the ointment here, but didn't we determine that there was a dangerous situation with the deck that was on the back of this house?
Yes.
And
But-
and the temporary situation doesn't necessarily eliminate the possibility of somebody getting to that deck, am I right?
That's true. It does have a temporary construction barrier around it.
And what is that construction barrier?
Well, it's like a plastic netting.
It's one of the plastic netting fences. I just don't think that's enough. No, I really don't. I mean, I think that, and I understand that he's going to close on the house, but I think that he could do something more for that particular circumstance.
He doesn't have any right to do it. He'd have to get permission from
Yeah.
the owner to allow him to do that.
Or put up a larger barrier, something more substantive than a plastic construction
Pull
fence.
that deck down.
Right.
Mr. Pugh, could you reach back out to Mr. Tangi and ask him if he could contact the homeowner to see about remedying that issue?
I sure will.
All right, so with that, we're going to keep this on the agenda, carried over without objection, and Mr. Pugh will see if we can maybe get some greater
I will.
protections to that area in the house while we're waiting for it to get closing. All right,
Will
so
do.
without objection, we'll carry that over. Next item, 11/11/19, public hearing from December 9th for consideration of condemning a house at 618 Hambaugh Avenue. There was also a public hearing that was held and closed on December 9th, and that item was carried over for an update report from Mr. Pugh.
As I mentioned to you last time, the homeowner did come and take out the proper permits. He's been in the process of trying to find a new contractor, and I spoke to him today. He's not found anyone yet.
And so, do we have a property? I can't specifically recall the danger of this property, but do we have a property with a specific danger?
Well, this is the one, I believe, that has the addition shed in the back and the unpermitted addition that is, not necessarily.
The unpermitted addition's not a danger.
Okay.
It's not a danger, and he has permitted that.
Okay.
It's the accessory structure that's in the back. It's enclosed within a fence, which is closed and locked. Other than that, though, it's not something anyone should go into. It does actually have a door on it, and it is locked.
All right.
It's that two-story.
Go ahead, Mr. Martin.
House with the columns in the front. And
yes, sir.
a big stairwell inside, and it's a pretty nice house if he.
It is.
And so where are we, remind me where we are in the process of getting that problem addressed?
He wanted to salvage that accessory structure, and his intent was to have his contractor who built the addition on the house to also come in and rebuild the roof structure of that and repair any damage to the walls. It's mainly the roof structure that started to collapse. But as I mentioned, he sort of fell out with his contractor, so he's in the process of doing that.
That's that same report.
Yeah. Okay. Any comments, further comments? I mean, this doesn't sound very encouraging. Mr. Pugh.
It's
Um,
slow
I think I
moving.
would, I mean, I would be interested to see if Mr. McCluskey or Mr. Jones has a thought, but I think I would just move to go ahead, go forward with the abatement of the shed. Maybe that'll provide some motivation. You got 30 days once we move, and then you
For
can,
declaration of a nuisance, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'll defer, Mr. McCluskey, Mr. Jones,
I don't know,
comments,
Joe.
or,
I will certainly move to that.
okay. All right, without further comment, I got a motion to move for declaration of public nuisance for condemning the house at 618,
No, not the house, the shed.
excuse me, well, it's the property, but they identify it by the property, but it's just.
Yes,
Accessory,
sir.
we'll be specific, accessory structure at 618 Hambaugh Avenue. Got a motion and by Mr. McCluskey, second by Mr. Jones. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, Mr. Pugh, I guess you can perhaps help let them know what has occurred, and maybe that'll help them move along to addressing that problem.
I will notify them.
All right, thank you, sir. 070120, public hearing set for February 10th at 6 o'clock PM for consideration of rezone property at 1619 Oxmoor Road from R5 to a C1 office building district. Applicant is Riverbrook LLC, doing business as Riverbrook Design and Construction. Owners are Lee and Kevin Mizzo, for the purpose to permit the utilization of an existing building for design and construction services business. Again, that's going to come up for public hearing on February 10th. We'll carry it over, obviously, until then. 020120, request for consideration of placing an ad in the Homewood Chamber of Commerce magazine. This came to us from Warren Caldwell with Starnes Publishing and Councilor Barry Smith, and we'll begin with a report from Finance on this. Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met on January 21st, and after hearing the presentation, we voted 4-0 to recommend approval of the full-page ad. It's $1,914 from the advertising line item 01-11-570500. So 4-0 out of Finance.
Thank you. Favorable vote out of Finance. Any further questions or discussions? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, so that funding for the ad is approved. 030120, request to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Jefferson County for a GIS consortium. This came to us from Brandon Broadhead and our E911 with our fire department. And we'll begin on this item also with a report from Finance. Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. The committee met, and after hearing from Brandon Broadhead, voted 5-0 to recommend approval. 5-0 out of Finance.
Thank you, sir. Another favorable vote out of Finance. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, so that authorization is approved. 120120, request for the city to accept corporate donations and amend fiscal year 1920 budgets for these donations and subsequent expenditures. Also coming to us from Brandon's going to kill me. Brandon Broadhead. Boy, we'll work on that one with our fire department. And another report from Finance. Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. After hearing from BB, we voted 5-0 to recommend approval of this item.
Thank you. Coming out of a favorable vote from Finance, any questions or discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And I'm sorry, Mike, I've been flying over resolutions, haven't I, sir?
I think that's 2009, I hope.
Okay. I'll backtrack here if necessary, but, all right, so that's going to be Resolution 2009 for 120120. Next item. 100120, request for consideration to grant a utility easement to Spire for a gas line at the Homewood Fleet Maintenance Property, 68 Bagby Drive. This from Jeff Watson with Spire and Wyatt Pugh and Greg Cobb with BEZ. And on this one, we'll begin with a report from Public Works. Mr. Gwaltney.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. The committee met 121, and after hearing from the Spire rep, Jeff Wilson, voted 4-0 to recommend approval pending Mr. Kendrick's review of their easement request.
So
Thank you, sir. So it's a favorable vote coming out of Public Works. Any questions or discussion?
I'll give a report about that. All we have
Yes, sir.
presently is an exhibit attached to the resolution that describes the easement, the approximate location. They will have to come out and survey it. This just authorizes the mayor to sign the easement, and that's complete. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They'll do an easement document that the mayor's authorized to sign with the legal description.
Do we, Mr. Kendrick, do we have does that have a sketch, I'll use the word sketch in there, so we kind of, yeah.
Yes, it has a
So we have,
diagram showing the property lines, the width of the easement.
yeah, I remember now.
The length of the easement, everything other than the actual legal description that they
Right.
said they would undertake as soon as we authorize this work.
Did they give any kind of timeline for,
It's to service our own building, so no, sir, I don't, probably will drive that public.
Yes.
All right, any further questions or discussion? All right, again, that's a favorable vote.
So, I'm sorry. They're surveying it now, should be done with the survey really soon, within the next couple of days, and then I can submit that to, yes.
All right, wonderful, Mr. Kendrick. Okay. Okay, great, thank you. All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's going to stand approved. That will be Resolution 20-10. Next item, 150919, which is a request for consideration to conduct diversity training for city employees, coming to us from Councilor Mike Hickenbotham, and this was sent to Special Issues, and I'll begin with a report from Special Issues. Mrs. Smith.
Yes, committee met last week and heard from Pete Blank, who works for the Jefferson County Personnel Board, and voted 4-0 to recommend approval of the item, but leaving it to the mayor to coordinate with the JCPB to coordinate the dates and time of that training. The motion was made by Mr. Higginbotham and seconded by Ms. Andrus, and the vote was 4-0. And I know that I believe Ms. Salter has been in contact with them already to see if we can get that ball
He's checking
rolling.
on some dates. Mr. Blank is and coordinating that with JJ, Mr. Blank, and he's supposed to let me know some dates sometime this week.
Okay.
To get started on it.
So there you go.
All right.
Moving ahead.
Thank you, and because of that, I don't think there's resolution needed. I'll go ahead and take a vote nonetheless. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed to that item? No need for resolution, but we'll certainly look forward to the mayor taking on that task for us. Next item, 050120, which is a request for discussion of policy regarding repeat ordinance violators, is coming to us from Councilor Jennifer Andrus. And without objection, I'm going to, well, no, won't be objection. I would, well, I'll tell you what. Let me first begin with a report from Special Issues. I'm sorry, Ms. Smith.
Okay.
I'm jumping the gun, but let me report from Special Issues, Ms. Smith.
Committee met and voted 4-0 to, just for the tree ordinance, double the fine on a second offense of a violation of the tree ordinance in a 24-month period. The first offense will remain $500, and the second offense, if it should happen within a 24-month period, will be $1,000 for that second offense. The motion was made by Councilor Andrus and seconded by Mr. Higginbotham, and again, it was 4-0.
Okay, so thank you very much.
Yes,
All right, so this item, Councilor Wyatt, myself, and our city attorney, Mr. Kendrick, had some discussions about it earlier, and I don't think there's much question that there is much support and uniform support for a measure along these lines to address repeat ordinance violators, and we were specifically looking at the tree ordinance with what has taken place most recently, which is most upsetting and repugnant in my opinion. However, having said that, and conferring with Mr. Kendrick, and he can certainly speak, and Mr. White, I'm going to let you speak too as well, that we think, unfortunately, we're going to have to drop this item because it's something that our hands are just legally tied with regard to exceeding the statutory limit of fines and punishment here. We can do civil, but they can easily choose to go the criminal $500 route and penalty route, and it really becomes an exercise of really, just of waste, of utilities. So, Mr. Wyatt, I don't know if you want to add to that at all.
I think you've covered it all, but yeah, I think that's, the deal is that by state law, the criminal fine is capped at $500. And so to take the civil beyond that, all we'd be doing is just letting people go do the $500 criminal fine. So it's not both, it's either, it's one or the other. So there's no real point in getting it above 500 because all you're doing, you'd have to do is go do it the other way, and we have no control over that number. So I don't think I think it would be best to drop the item.
Can I ask a point of clarification?
Yes, Mr. Gwaltney?
Is it tied like per unit, or what's the unit of measurement that the fine is tied to?
Per tree.
Per tree, by state law, okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So,
Gotcha.
so we do get $500 per tree, which is helpful, but in some cases, not enough.
Yeah, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, the deal is that each tree is a violation. Each tree that you take down in violation is an act, and therefore the $500 minimum, or maximum, excuse me, would apply to each instance.
It applies to each tree. It's a separate incident.
Right. I was just wondering if it would be tied to DPH or something like that. Thanks for the clarification.
Yes, Mr. Jones? I have moved to drop by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. McCluskey. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, so that item is dropped.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir, Mr. James?
Before we approve the committee referral agenda, could we make sure we leave 070120 on the council agenda, but also add it to committee referral to planning and development? We're not sure if it was moved to committee, which we'll need to meet prior to the public hearing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we don't normally carry every committee referral over, like, I think the last time 2 meetings weren't set, public safety and P&D, so
Yeah.
we had stuff on the referral, but we didn't do an agenda on the 21st for that because they didn't call a meeting. So we usually have to go back and look at the council agendas. We don't just roll them forward, each referral. Does that make sense? But he just wanted to make sure. I'm 95% sure it is on the referral from last council meeting.
Do I need to?
But he wanted just to make sure that we could amend it to, if it's not on there, 070120 to P&D, but I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so.
It was on the last one, but.
Without objection, let me just kind of make sure I get the, we're going to add another, did I already, is that the one we did? No, that's a
No.
different one, okay. We're going to add another agenda item to our committee referral, 070120, going to, where again, Mr. Tanner? Going to planning and development without objection. I will go ahead and add that to our already amended committee referral, which will be an additional amendment. And so first I will entertain another motion to approve the fully amended committee referral agenda as most recently amended. By Mr. Thames, second by Mr. Gwaltney. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so that is the double amended committee referral agenda, and I'll entertain a motion for approval of that agenda tonight. By Mr. Thames, second by Mr. Gwaltney. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so that is approved, and you're covered on that item, Mr. Thames. All right, next item, 20, excuse me, I think that's, nope, I misspoke. Next item, 210120, request for consideration of the 2020 Homewood Stormwater Management Program Plan. This came to us from Wyatt Pugh and the BEZ, and we had a public input session, which we now need to go ahead and deem closed, which I will do with all the authority vested in me to do that. And I will entertain a motion and second to close the public input time for the 2020 Homewood Stormwater Management Program Plan. I'll enter from Mr. Jones.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And Mr. Pugh, is that all we need on this item?
You need to authorize the mayor, we have a resolution.
We do have a resolution, okay.
To execute it and then file it with ADM.
Okay, all right, so, so hearing Mr. Kendrick, I want to make clear on what I have here. need to authorize the mayor to submit this program, file it with the ADM, Alabama Department of Environmental Management. So I'll go ahead and entertain another motion to authorize the mayor to do that for us.
Move resolution 2011, I guess, right?
Yes.
It will be 2011. All right, from Mr. Jones, and a second from Mr. McCluskey. Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so that authority to the mayor is approved. 220120, request for consideration of an ABC restaurant retail liquor license for Razamvav Hotel LLC, doing business as, much easier to say, Hilton Garden Inn, Birmingham Lakeshore at 520 Wildwood Circle Drive North. It's coming to us from our city clerk, Melody Salter. I guess I need to make sure where we are.
Can y'all just do it pending fire and police? I didn't get a chance to double check with fire today.
Okay. All right, so we'll entertain a motion to approve this item pending approval from fire and police for this.
Yeah, I'll move to as having no objection to the issuance of the license pending police and fire.
All right. A motion from Mr. McCluskey. Second by Mr. Hickenbotham. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so that will stand approved. Last item, 230120, request for consideration of approval of vouchers for the period of January 14, 2020 through January 27, 2020. And Mr. Jones?
I yield the floor to Mrs. Smith.
You happily do that, Mrs. Smith.
I can attest, she was up here yesterday looking at them because
Yes.
I found her up here.
Yes, we were both up here on Sunday. And I found another $1, so you're welcome, just saying. And I would tell you, I had some questions that Mr. Burgett answered for me to my satisfaction. So I would say let's move to approve all the vouchers for this period.
All right, I have a motion to do that from Mrs. Smith and a second from Mr. Harden. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so those vouchers through January 27 are approved with Resolution 20-12. And that gets us to the end of our agenda. And comments first from the mayor. Mr. Mayor?
Good. Thank you, Mr. President. Quite a few tonight. First of all, we had the Over the Mountain mayors met last week, last Thursday, along with Mayor Choate from Trustful, and some others, Chris Nani, Gus Hurd, and Brittany Somerville. I don't know if y'all remember Brittany, but Brittany's been very involved in Birmingham Bound. And it's an initiative that we're all pretty interested in trying to basically attract some tech companies to not just Birmingham, but the state of Alabama. And she had some really great ideas that I look forward to sharing with y'all. I think there's some potential in Homewood, but you know, one of the things that we've been working on lately is the regional cooperation, which I think we do a great job at that. But I think there are some possibilities for some real wins in the Birmingham area if we can just get people from other parts of the country to see just how great the state of Alabama is, and in particular Jefferson County. So more to come on that. Out of that meeting, in talking with Chris, I'm going to be setting up a conference call with VIA. I don't know if you've heard of them, but it's a microtransit authority that's working pretty well in Birmingham. He thinks it would be a good fit for the city of Homewood, in particular in areas where we have niche markets that are not maybe being served as well as they could be. And it's a whole different concept. If you're interested, I'll send you a link on that. Saturday was a great afternoon. We went to the Salamander Festival. That was I think the 16th annual. And of course, Jennifer was there. She received an award. She may not tell you, but I will. But really just for her participation in so many of the environmental things that that group help us with. And it's just a lot of fun. There's a ton of kids, a ton of salamanders, a snake, owls. I mean, it was crazy. I think Mr.
Some
Wolverton
interpretive
was there.
dancing. The interpretive dancing.
Yeah. The what now?
Interpretive dancing.
Interpretive dancing. When I first saw that girl that sliding around, I thought she had fallen at first, but it was different. But she was really good. I couldn't have done it, but it was good. So congratulations, Jennifer, to you on that. They had some really nice things to say in your support of them, and y'all all know Henry Hughes and Jane Reed Ross and Michelle Blackwood and all of them. So that event has really grown over the years. It started, I don't know exactly where it started, but for the last few years we've had it at the senior center, but it's just outgrown it.
All right, I want to know if all those salamanders were from Homewood.
What's that now?
I want to know if all those salamanders were from Homewood.
You would have to ask somebody else. I don't know. It was a bunch of them, I'll say that. On a little sadder note, just announce, if you hadn't seen in the paper, our state representative, Jim Carnes, his wife, Miss Judy, passed away. So if any of you want to reach out to him or come to the service, that's going to be Wednesday from 10 to 12. It's going to be the visitation. Noon will be the service, and it'll be at Briarwood Presbyterian. But I've already relayed to him that our thoughts and prayers from the city of Homewood are with them. We've got a meeting this week with the Patels, so hopefully some really exciting things are about to happen with the old Holiday Inn property there, and the possible demolition and revitalization of that area. So we'll certainly keep you posted, and it'll certainly be something we have to have your help with when it gets to that point. So may even have some things to announce at the next meeting. We'll just have to see how the meeting this week goes. The 2020 Historic Hollywood Home Tour is going to be Sunday, April 26th from 1 to 4, and some of you may be thinking, why are you announcing that quickly? That's kind of a long way off, it seems like. However, if you want to be a sponsor of that event, I've got some forms that you can fill out. We try to do that each year. It ranges anywhere from $250 to $1,000. The donation supports the Shades Cahaba Elementary School Garden and Green Space. And then lastly, when this meeting is over, I'm headed to get or accept an award on behalf of Homewood for our leadership among other cities for defibrillators, if y'all remember those, when we put those out. That's called on, so Cardiac Solutions is going to be honoring the city of Homewood, so my night's not over yet. So anyway, but thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Gwaltney.
I'll go ahead and set Public Works for 5:30. 5:30 for Public Works. Just a couple of things. Britt and I had a ward meeting last Tuesday, so my apologies that we had to leave committees a few minutes early, but we had a nice turnout, got to explain a lot of things that were going on in the city, and had a really good discussion with our neighbors. One of the things that came out of that, since it's right in front of me, was a question about household hazardous waste collection. They were asking about when that was going to occur. I found out a few minutes ago the first one for the year will be 4/25/20, and the closest location for hazardous waste to be taken to for Jefferson County Environmental Services is 7952 Crestwood Boulevard in Irondale. That's the Habitat for Humanity Restore. And then Jennifer, congratulations on a well-deserved award. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Thames?
How long will you need for Public Works? 15 minutes. So I will set P&D for 5:45. Probably will need 30 minutes. And that is all.
Thank you, Mr. Thames. Mr. Hickenbotham?
Nothing.
Thank you. Mr. Wolverton?
I just want to say congrats to Jennifer again. We appreciate everything that you're doing, and the award had a lot to do with the trail, and we're excited to see things move along with the next phase there. I will second that the interpretive dancing was interesting. Yeah, I think everybody there thought it was about to end, and they'd clap, and then it would start up again, and it just kept going for about 45 minutes. But I thought it was a great event. They've definitely grown, and we appreciate them, expanding, and thought it was a great setup, and everybody enjoyed it. And that's about it.
Thank you. Mr. McCluskey?
Thank you, Mr. President. I will set public safety for 6:15. You said 30 minutes, right, Brent? So 6:15. The Homewood Athletic Foundation Cornhole Tournament, Mr. 15th, right? March 15th, Sunday, March 15th at Gianmarco's again. I believe this is the second year it's been there. So anybody that wants to sponsor a team or just sponsor a court, you can certainly contact Jeremy Bernstein, I guess is probably who they need to contact.
That's for
John Wallace, that's right.
For the Athletic Foundation.
Through the Athletic Foundation, yep. And then I had had the pleasure of attending, some of you I know have daughters who have been through Girl Scouts and things like that, so I've never really had the opportunity to go to a dance with my daughters, but Hall Kent this year through the PTO created the first Palentine's dance at school. So for the first annual, the gym was packed. I mean, it was standing room only. DJ Sills came in and did that. So that was a really neat thing for that PTO group to do. So I really appreciated that. And that's it.
Thank you, sir. And Dr. Jones?
Yes, finance at 5 o'clock, and I don't have anything further tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Mrs. Smith?
How long do you need, you think, for public safety? 15? Okay. All right, so I will set special issues for 6:30. And on this Thursday night, the 30th, at 7 o'clock down in Rosewood Hall, the Homewood Historic Preservation Commission is going to be sponsoring the documentary premiere of the Pink House movie. They have been working with a film student at UAB named Kinsey Greer, and she put the movie together. It's kind of it documents the history of the house, features some interviews with Jake and some other folks, some historic folks from Homewood with some thoughts on the house, and I think it's going to be really neat. It's about a 30-minute, it's just shy of 30 minutes in total, so Sweet JJ has offered to do sodas and waters for the event, and we're getting a popcorn machine, so he is sweet. He's so nice.
There you go.
Sweet JJ. And so y'all come out and watch the movie. I think it should be really interesting.
Except on Fridays. Sometimes he's not sweet Jackie.
Well, that's all of us, isn't it? So 7 o'clock, Thursday night, Rosewood Hall, about 30 minutes. Y'all
Thank
come.
you, ma'am. And Mr. Wyatt?
I just wanted to thank everyone that came out to the library a couple weeks ago on Saturday for the Homewood Historical Society had a meeting about the rezoning, and I thought we had a really good conversation with the crowd and got some good positive feedback. I think there was a good bit of understanding about where we are and what the goals are, and got some good encouragement about moving forward.
Good to hear. Ms. Andrews?
And speaking of that, our consultant from Placemaker, Susan Henderson, will be in town next week. She's coming in for the Planning Commission meeting. And she's going to come in, she'll get in around lunchtime on Monday. And so what we're going to do, and I will put together the information tomorrow and get it out to everybody, and you guys send it out to your constituents, and the city can put it on the website, and we'll send it out to all our mailing lists. But she is going to make herself available in 30-minute increments from 4 to 6 on Monday, from 10 to 12 and from 2 to 4 on Tuesday, the 4th, and then she'll be at the meeting at 6, and then again from 10 to noon on Wednesday. And so we will send that out for the property owners, and what'll be able to happen is the property owners will be able to come in and say, this is my address, and then she can tell you, here is currently what can and cannot be done at your address. Here is how that changes, or how this will affect you, if it does at all. So she's making herself available those days, and we'll get all that information out to make sure that everybody gets a chance to sign up. We have a Google Doc with the 30-minute increments.
And it's just for
Property owners.
Property owners in the downtown
Yep, in the downtown area, that's right.
Does that conflict with his planning and zoning, planning development meeting?
Well, she's not on our agenda, so it's at the planning commission, yeah. So she's, yeah, and this will be in Melody's conference room, so we'll be across the hall, but
And you don't expect a quorum, do I need to publicly notice those meetings?
we are not in those meetings. So this is Susan and someone from our zoning department meeting directly with property owners from downtown.
But I don't need to announce that for the website. You want me to announce?
Well, we do want to publicize it, and so what I was going to do, since we were still putting it together when I got here tonight, was I'm going to put together just a little blurb explaining what's going on, with the link to the Google Doc, where it will be, who all will be in attendance, which will be Susan and then Vicky from the zoning department. And then,
Maybe to help
and then,
us get it out.
and then we do want to get it out far and wide. I'll get Brian to put it on our website, and, all of you guys reach out to your constituents, and, Lindsay will send it out to her distribution list, and we just want to make sure everybody knows they're going to have this opportunity to have a one-on-one with Susan. And depending on how it goes, if there's some opportunities, for a 15-minute meeting here or there, we'll just look and see how the signups go, and just kind of take it from there, so.
If you're going to put something together, you may get someone to run it down, pass out to the businesses downtown.
Yes, I can do that. Yeah, I'll take care of that. Yep, all right.
The business owners will be there.
Okay.
Wonderful. Property owners, thank you, sir.
Property owners, that's right, it's for the property owners, that's
And
right.
that just note from what we've heard from the businesses, there's a disconnect between property owners and the tenants, and somehow they don't talk to each other, so they never got any notice about anything we've been doing. So just know that you may not get to the property owners just because you get it to the tenants.
Right, well, this will be for the property owners,
Yeah.
and then depending on how things turn out sign-up-wise, and we've got more time for her to meet with other folks as well, but she will be available, she will make herself available. I wanted to congratulate Lainey Phelps. Lainey Phelps is the Gatorade Athlete of the Year, Female Athlete of the Year for Alabama. That's her second time she has won that award, so congratulations to her. Barry and I have our Census 2020 meeting tomorrow at 4 o'clock. The library, right? The Salamander Festival was great. I mean, it was fantastic. Saw Mr. Wolverton there, as well as Mayor and JJ. And thank you to the Friends of Shades Creek for giving our team an award for advocacy for our project that we did on Lakeshore Trail, removing that privet. And I really, again, just can't thank Berkeley Squires enough because of that Berkeley man. He just got it done. So I really, really, really want to thank him. And we loved working with Mark Thomas. We're going to bring him back on an annual basis to keep that trail looking great. Finally, on February the 11th, in this room from 4 to 6, we're going to have Shades Creek Watershed Management Plan. So if you want to whatever you want to learn about the Shades Creek Watershed Management Plan, we'll be here to talk about it. So that is open for everybody to come and join us. That's it.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Harden.
Well, as always, I'm grateful to be here. Sometimes it's a little more unusual than others. I am also, as you guys probably are, grateful for my ward mate who just carries the day on everything, and it's a full-time job for her. So, but I also want to appreciate those who've worked so hard on this zoning. I know we still got a rough road ahead of us. I'm just a new guy here. I don't have any at all in it, but I'm grateful for some folks who have really put some time into this, really gotten beat up a lot, and we are trying to be good statesmen by trying to do the right thing here for the city. It somehow has gotten, we've lost the narrative to all our Facebook friends, but I'm just grateful for all the work that's been done by you guys, and I appreciate it. I don't know about the rest of the city, but I do.
Thank you, Mr. Harden. I won't hesitate to remind everyone, everything was nice and smooth until you joined us. So, and yes, I got 20 more times to say that. And Jennifer, congratulations, well-deserved as always, so thank you. Nothing further tonight, and so we will stand adjourned. See you guys in 2 weeks here, council meeting.